Brooklyn Independent Television.
In case you're just joining us, we are here at the Sty Dome in Bed-Stuy, and of course, Brooklyn is storming back from Sandy. And as you know, our show has been postponed because of storm coverage, but we are back on the mend, just like the borough and the rest of the city. And also, we're going to discuss the effect the storm had on the sports scene throughout Brooklyn and throughout the city. And joining me is Chris Legree, president of the Mo Better Jaguars, and the coach, Darren Dixon. Gentlemen, when we look at that storm, it occurred the week around October 27th, 28th, that whole weekend leading up to it. How did you prepare, and also describe how you felt going through that particular storm, and also the effect it had on sports here in Brooklyn?
Well, first things first, I'm a Con Edison emergency worker, and I happened to be right down on South Street when the water was actually coming in, and we lost the network down there. That storm was, it impacted more than obviously what people thought it would. And I did some work out in Coney Island, some of the hard-hit areas. It devastated the communities, it devastated. I like the idea how people are rallying around each other now and trying to help each other, and I think sometimes events like that do bring people together.
So, you know, maybe, unfortunately, maybe storms should happen every day if it's going to bring people together. Shouldn't, but you understand what I'm saying? In order for people, there always has to be a tragedy in order for folks to come together, and that's unfortunate. Not that I'm for a storm coming on Sandy. I don't agree that we should have storms like that, but these things do bring people together.
Well, I think we could find other things to bring people together. But I know one interesting story that's in Xavier High School, where I was a former football coach there, and this team won the AA championship. But what's so interesting about that particular school is their school is in Manhattan, they practice in Brooklyn. And a lot of those kids live out in Bell Harbor and the Rockaways. And I talked to two young men where one had to stay at the other kid's house in Manhattan because his house was just devastated. You know, and talking to the coach and the adversity that they dealt with to overcome that and still win the AA championship was awesome. You know, it was really, you know, so it was a storm, but at the end of the day, people fought through it and good things came out of it.
And the PSAL was supposed to play their last football game that week, but because of the storm, those games were canceled and they went right into the playoffs the following week.
They did the right thing.
Okay. A lot of folks are upset because I know they said DeWitt Clinton, all they needed was to win that one game, and then they probably would have had a playoff bid.
Well, they probably looked at the PowerPoint situation and looked and see where if they won this game, would it give them enough points to get there? And then when they did the calculation, they probably said, well, even if they won, they probably wouldn't have been the 16th team. I'm just speculating, but that's probably one thing that they might have looked at for Clinton.
You know, also events like that put games and sports in perspective. It has no importance in the bigger scheme of things when people are losing their families. I mean, the lady in Staten Island holding up two kids, lost both kids. You know, so when you think of those kind of events, it makes games.
And the father was out saving other lives.
Exactly.
How about that?
Yeah.
You
So
know?
it's a serious deal.
What sort of lessons did your players
I had
learn?
two kids that lost everything, and we put some things together to help them out. But you know what? Material things you can get back. Thank God those kids didn't lose their life, and they'll rebound. They'll be stronger for it once they get through it.
But what about the people that they was given like 6-day warnings and they just didn't leave?
Well, you know, a lot of people didn't believe that something like this could ever occur here in New York City because it hasn't in quite some time. We had Irene. Irene was basically maybe out there Long Island, parts of New Jersey, but nothing like this ever came to the city.
The weather forecast for those 6 days, they were pretty sure that this was going to be bad. And, you know, and some people, they just didn't leave. They just stayed where they were. What are you going to protect? Like you said, you can't get back to life. You could get back your home, your car, you know, things like that. But if you perish, then, you know, that's it. So, you know, we gotta listen. You know, they didn't take those classes to learn about this stuff, you know. And a lot of people just didn't listen. A lot of people didn't listen.
The full effects of the storm will be felt forever for quite some time because people are in a recovery mode. throughout Brooklyn and throughout the city.
Well, I know from a Con Edison perspective, it did a lot of damage to our transformers. The salt water ate into the switches and the gears, and it's a big job.
Right?
Yeah,
That was the fear.
What, as far as a team, when did you guys start practicing again? As far as
we waited
about a week. We
waited
about
a little less than a week. We were in regionals, but we were mindful of the families, and we waited. We were very patient with it, and we talked to the kids about it. We didn't just go back on the field. We had a discussion.
One more thing. What did you say to your kids?
Well, the thing I said to them was be grateful. You know, a lot of people it didn't happen to, but empathize with the people who did go through something. And we did some things that helped some people too. I think it's important. That's a good time you can practice helping others and not just think about yourself.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the high school football season. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, we're here at the Sty Dome in Bed-Stuy, and practicing behind me, if you hear all the noise, is from Bedford Academy, their boys varsity basketball team. But joining me here is Chris Legree of the Mobetta Jaguars and Darren Dixon. Gentlemen, we want to talk about the football season. First, before we get to high school football, how did your team do?
Did very well. We went to the regional finals. We were beaten by a team from Philadelphia called the Enoch Eagles. And we had a great season.
Now, you played the regional finals in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
Eastern High School, yes. Southeast Washington.
Yeah, it was a game to go to Florida. And, you know, it's part of the deal when you're in tournament play. You know, I always tell the kids there's no ties. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But it's very important how you handle it. I think what happened with this group I had this year, though, these guys are ready for the next level, though. In the last two seasons, they're 26-2.
Now, what were these, midgets?
These are midgets. These are guys that get ready to go to high schools in New York and other places.
All right, gentlemen. Well, as far as the high school football season, Erasmus Hall won it all as far as in the championship division. And in the bowl division, it was South Shore High School. Let's take a crack first at South Shore in the bowl. They defeated Grady.
I think South Shore is one of those up-and-coming schools right now. There are 3 right now, but I can guarantee you within a year or so, they'll be back at that 5 level playing some real high school football. I talk to the coach all the time. He's a real good guy. He's knowledgeable about the game. He's passionate about his kids. And I think they're going to do some real good things in the years to come.
Now, South Shore probably went down the peg because of the breakup?
Well, yeah, you know, when the school broke up, well, actually, the year before that, the head coach prior to that, Sabato, he wanted to drop down. They didn't drop him down because of his history, which I understood. But
which history?
Well, South Shore had good history football over the years. You know, they've been in the championship maybe in 4, something like that, 5, somewhere around there. You know, actually had 2 brothers playing against each other.
David Legree, the Legree Bowl. Legree.
So to drop them down to where he wanted to be at that point, I thought the PSL did a great job in saying, hey, look, man, your history is good, your track record is good. We're going to leave you at this point in it. But, you know, with the new coach coming in, the school breaking up, you know, they dropped them down to a 3. But they won't be a 3 long, I guarantee you that.
Grady also played well.
Well, Grady's a good school. They've been around for quite a while. But
do you see them moving up at all next year, in a couple of years?
They should. I mean, they got a good history also. They have good coaches over there. But I think South Shore is just a little bit stronger than them right now. The coach is out there, he's pounding the pavement, and he's trying to get things
Now,
done.
Speaking of schools that also may break up, which they did pretty well this year too, was boys and girls. There's a ruckus over there. The Sheepshead Bay also, but boys and girls, there's a rallying cry to keep boys and girls as it is. And they're opposing, as far as opponents out there, they would like to see the school break up. What would that mean for the football program? And basketball also.
First things first, congratulations to South Shore. I'm a South Shore alum, and I'm very pleased with it. You know, I'm very happy with it. And I want to commend the PSL also for doing a great job. I thought they did a great job in coordinating the end of the season, the championship play, the officiating. Bruce Krowski did a great job. So I want to give the PSL kudos. I hope we don't. Sometimes people have ideas. It's good, but Boys High, the tradition and legacy there, it's a special tradition. It shouldn't be tainted. You know, Canarsie High School, this place, South Shore High School, there's a lot of great student athletes been there. I think we should keep that in consideration, trying to maintain these
Well, certain
places.
people don't, as far as history, they like to keep that on the History Channel. Let's also talk about real quick about what's happening as far as the PSL, the championship division, real quick, where Erasmus Hall took it all. They won their first title since, I think, the B division. They won back in '86.
I think that's Erasmus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's Erasmus' first
Championship, right.
In school.
They were there last year, and last year they won. They were in the title game, championship game against Lincoln High School, but they lost to Lincoln. So it was a great comeback on their part.
Well, yeah, I think this year and last year, Danny Lambert did a good job getting his team back to that point. That's not easy to do, to get to the championship one year.
And they didn't have Wayne Morgan, who's at Syracuse.
Yeah,
who's
Curtis Samuels.
Curtis Samuels, which might be better, But back to the game, I think he did a good job getting his team back to the championship, back-to-back years, and coming out on top this time. But I think Timeville did a great job also.
And also Timeville, a lot of controversy, unfortunately.
What was going on?
Yeah.
At the end of the game, I shook hands with some of the kids and, tied it back on one of the gentlemen, and he said, I said, well, you're a junior, so he said, well, this wasn't really for me. And I kind of knew what that was really all about. But to have a kid think about someone other than himself at that age was pretty nice too.
Yes. And you got to consider they came back from the storm like everyone else. I mean, still recovering. A lot of people are still in recovery mode as far as the storm. And then on top of that, the death of that young lady that committed suicide.
I think that's what he was talking about when they were saying, so those kids were playing for something more than just the championship,
Well, Erasmus, listen, they went undefeated. And when you go undefeated and win a championship, that's special.
All right, speaking of championship, there's a potential track and field champion out there. Welcome back. We're here at the Sty Dome in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and you can hear Bedford Academy's basketball team back there practicing, preparing for a long, long season to come. Gentlemen, as far as speaking of seasons, the football season was quite a season where we had some surprises. Let's talk about some of the surprises.
I thought Sheepshead Bay, the way they came together then was very good. I think Erasmus going undefeated was a little surprise.
I think the other surprise for me too was when Curtis High School defeated boys and girls.
Well, that was probably the disappointing game in the whole playoff situation, because I know Coach Harden really felt like he had his kids prepared well. As a coach, you get a feel of how your kids are preparing that week. And he said to me that they had an excellent week of practice. He saw no fall off or anything like that. And he just was very disappointed that they just didn't get that job done. So I think that was probably the disappointing game of the season.
When you coach, you prepare. You want to prepare for 3 phases: offense, defense. But I think you said the key word, kids. We're coaching young people, and it's still an unpredictability to how that given day gonna be.
But as a coach, not take anything away from coach, the boys and girls, should you have a plan B, plan C? But
I'm just saying.
In case there's an off day.
What happens is he probably had A, B, and C. I know him for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, turnovers. Those are not things that you can kind of work on in practice. Those are some things that happen. You drive and you get down to the one, and there's a fumble, and you're like, so what can you really do about that? So you can't really prepare for that at practice. Whether he had a game plan A, B, or C, doesn't really matter. Those turnovers come and bite you. There's nothing you can do about it.
You need leadership when adversity happens. Adversity is going to happen. Turnovers, penalties. And if you look at the good teams, they seem to have those guys who could almost will their team at moments. I noticed that in Curtis Samuels in the championship game. You could see it was a struggle, and it was physical, but you could see him willing his team.
Was this a better team because they did not have Wayne Morgan?
Well, last year they had injuries, don't forget.
Okay.
Right.
Curtis was hurt.
Right.
Shaquille Jackson was hurt.
Right.
They can conceivably have won last year. They had injuries, and injuries are part of the game.
It's interesting that you bring that point up, because not only that Curtis willed the team, the coach knew this. So at some point during that game, he put
went
in
to
his
Curtis,
hand.
right?
He said, "Hey, look,
That's true.
you get this done for us. There's not much I could do at this point.
Yeah.
Now it's the You know, as a coach always say, you got the great coach, but if you ain't got those Billies and Joes to go with it, you know, and Curtis was one of those guys that just took over. And
he showed great maturity.
Yeah.
I mean, I know him as a 7-year-old when he started with us at Mo Better. And I'm just so very impressed with his maturity.
Now, also, Coach Danny Landberg was also the New York Jets High School Coach of the Year. Well, you're shaking your head.
He may have.
I mean, come on. He deserved it. He coached the team last year. They were in a championship.
I remember when Landberg didn't even want the job. I remember when Erasmus was one of those schools that's now the Canarsies, the Jeff that got broken up. They were one of the first. So what these coaches are dealing with now, Landberg dealt with it early. But he didn't stay. He left the ship also.
I remember that.
You know, he left the ship because of what all these other coaches are complaining about now, the Bell schedule, the principals are not cooperating. He just washed his hands. Left it with a good friend of his, but as soon as he realized that, well, you know, this is not going to be that bad, he jumped right back on board. So, I mean, I read something in the paper that said no one didn't want the job. I totally disagree with that. He didn't want the job. You know, but he did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from him.
Well, I understand.
I've known him for a while. But when, you know, you didn't want the job either, buddy.
Now, we were talking about breakups, the schools breaking up. As far as boys and girls, we want to go back to that discussion. If boys and girls does break up, I know, what does it mean academically? What does it mean athletically? I mean, because athletically, they have a strong tradition here, not only in Brooklyn, but here in New York City and throughout the country.
Well, I don't think it'll change that much in that respect. I think Darren could talk a little more about the educational structure of it.
The politics of it, because that's the same problem Canarsi's Camardizi went through, right? I mean,
but geographically, where they're located, they're going to get kids. They got a good coach there. He's a good leader. He's a good community guy. They'll be all right that way, I think.
The powers that be don't really care about the athletic part of it. It's that graduation rate that's starting to drop at that school, and those are the things that makes them come in and want to.
And also a change in the community too, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, that's all over now.
The complexion with the connection. All right, gentlemen. So now, look at the football season. Wayne Morgan also at Syracuse. How did he do this year?
Very well. Brandon Reddish started at corner. He's doing well. They're playing at Yankee Stadium December 29th against West Virginia.
Wayne Morgan also went to Erasmus last year.
Right. And Brandon from Fort Hamilton.
Okay. And
the other kid from Canarsie, Stephen Renette.
Yeah. And where's Ebenezer going? Any idea?
He's going to a college in the United States of America.
Could it be Clemson? We'll find out, huh?
It could. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
All right, we don't know. Okay.
I just hope that he goes to a place where he can play and grow.
I'm not going to call you a liar. I just don't believe you, but it's good. All right. Well,
I like that.
Thank you for coming on.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at brickartsmedia.org/BIT.